Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So today we are back again with another champion review. This time it's Goldpool, and I'm largely doing this review because I feel that vast majority of the community has the impression that Goldpool is simply and purely kind of like a prestige champion and it's pretty worthless otherwise. And while he definitely does not contend for like the top 5 champion states in the game or top 10, he definitely has his use even in endgame content, and I kind of rekindled my likeness for this champion in 6.3 because I used him quite a bit to either deal a huge amount of damage to Nick Fury boss. I think on one occasion I actually managed to solo him with Goldpool. Also, we soloed that Black Bolt mini boss in Medusa quest several times with Goldpool, and overall he did a really solid job. So first things first, we're going to check him out in up against this Realm of Legends Winter Soldier, and look at that. That was 48k special 2 there, and as we can see, he also has inbuilt power gain if you do not finish that little dance of his. If you do happen to finish that dance, you get that prowess buff, which is extremely easy to do. So yeah, here we can definitely see that his damage output is not that bad at all, and it's definitely still viable even in endgame content. He hits harder than majority of the champions in game, in my opinion, especially if you know how to use him properly. Either way though, here we are going to go over a few basic abilities Goldpool has. So he has a lot of regen that trigger at 35% health is his signature regen, and at 15% health is his base in built regen. You also have a chance to stun on your special attacks with your level 1. Basically, if you're fighting non-female, non-robot champions, you have 100% chance to stun opponent, which is extremely important because it's a reliable stun. Basically, anyone that feels a crotch shot gets stunned, guaranteed. Level 2 has a 50% chance to stun level opponent, unless it's a first level 2 of the fight, and then it's guaranteed as well. So there we saw that 105 hits against Winter Soldier. I don't think it's a bad showing at all for a champion that's generally not considered to be a high damage dealer. And here we're going to be taking a look at that abusability of his guaranteed stun on his level 1s. So this hood has a Burden of Might node on, which is fairly commonly found in many different quests. Basically, whenever a debuff expires, we lose a bunch of power. However, in return, we typically gain more power, and with that increased power gain, it's basically enough to sustain Deadpool from one special attack to another, and you can completely stun lock opponents on pretty much all increased power gain nodes. If your power gain is increased, power reserve nodes or Burden of Might nodes, you have an easy cheese method how to abuse your opponents. And unlike some other champions who can do similar things like Ronan and Gambit, for instance, this guy actually works with suicides just because of that extra heal. You can still bring him in, spam those level 1s, use that regeneration he has built in, and that will cover your suicide damage quite comfortably. So yeah, he definitely has some interesting applications. These fights are in variant 1, which we all know is a fairly stacked opponents there, and Goldpool has absolutely no problem crotch-shotting these guys and keeping them stunned and basically dominating the entire fight. So that's one little tip of advice for Goldpool users. And yeah, we can see that the fight is as simple as that. Few things I did not mention yet about Goldpool is every 20 hits on your combo meter, you do place a taunt debuff on opponent, which in this case is also a passive taunt, which is definitely really useful and abusable. You can also refresh that taunt with your heavy attacks, and your level 3s can refresh all your active regeneration and or prowess buffs, so you can basically get in level 3 rotation with Goldpool as well, and you will keep your prowess up. You can do extra damage. That bleed that level 3 has is also connected to the prowess, so you will be doing increased amounts of bleed. Additionally, you can use it just to gain pretty much like a double heal. Here we are in a random fight in 6.3, just to show how he measures up against 6.3 opponents and how you would typically want to use him in an endgame fight. So first things first, you want to get to a level 2. Once you shoot that off, opponent will get stunned guaranteed for the first level 2 in the fight. And now that that is done, you have your prowess buff active, your damage and special attacks is substantially increased, and from there on out, you basically kind of want to spam your level 2s to hopefully crit and do some incredibly good damage. Even if you don't crit, there is a big bleed associated with that level 2, and you get a chunk of power back. So you are able to shoot a level 2s relatively quickly, basically as if they were simple level 1 attacks. And that is definitely useful. Here we took an opportunity to refresh our prowess buff because opponent got stunned. Level 2s still have 50% chance to stun opponent every time you drop them. So every time that stun does trigger, you can just reactivate your prowess. And here we can see that the last party trick Goldpool does is, even though there is no increased power gain, that guaranteed stun lets you still drop 3-4 level 1s in a row without opponent having an option to retaliate. So that is an excellent finishing move where you can safely push opponents to level 3 and just kind of keep them pinned against the wall and drop 3-4 level 1s in order to finish out the fight. And now we're going to take a look at what happens when stuff does go wrong. So first fight, I'm purposely playing extremely carelessly. I'm gonna get tagged a couple of times. I'm gonna trigger Power Sting on purpose here, just take some extra damage, and basically we're gonna finish off the fight with not too much health left at all. And then in the next couple of fights, I'm gonna show exactly how well his regeneration work even with Suicide Masteries active, because that does dampen your regeneration by quite a bit, 30% to be exact. So without Suicide Masteries, that regen would be an absolute insane powerhouse. However, here we finished the fight off basically with about 20% health, and now we're going to be heading into the next fight against this Black Widow. And the base idea is, let's see how much health we can recover, finish off the fight, and where we're at after the first fight. So first things first, and Nick Fury synergy obviously with Goldpool is quite useful to get rid of that bleed and give us some heal at the beginning of the fight, but that's not where we want to stop. I want to basically at this point get to my level 3 or close to it, and then I want to trigger that regeneration that we get when we hit 15% health, and that will basically kind of set our plan in motion here. So at all the same time, obviously we are still managing to damage that Black Widow a decent extent. As I mentioned before, Goldpool isn't the craziest damage dealer, but his damage definitely is not negligible either, and he cannot possibly be considered pillow hands at this point, I think. Anyway, so we're at 28% health here. I'm taking some hits in the block on purpose. Also, another great thing about Deadpool's regen is that it basically cannot be negated by Black Widow and champions of such abilities, by skilled champions in particular, because he has like hugely increased ability accuracy on some of those effects, and it's kind of funny character description. Anyways, we have triggered the regen here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let most of it run out. As we can see, that took us back to 28%. Now we're going to drop our level 3, which is going to completely refresh that regen buff, and basically we get double the duration, or almost the double duration of that regen, which is going to take us further over the next milestone. The most important thing for us is to get above that 40% mark. I think it might be 35%, so we can trigger the next regeneration at beginning of next fight or throughout the next fight. So here we finish the fight with 45% health. We are steadily making our way back, and this 40% regen that triggers that is connected to signature ability obviously is much more potent, especially if you have high signature ability on your Goldpool. But typically if you happen to have Goldpool ranked, you will want him to be high signature because of prestige largely. And let's not kid, prestige definitely was a big reason why I ranked him up. Another huge reason was how well he works with Nick Fury, and lastly, he's also quite cool champ to use. So here we're up against Gamora. At this point we are at 50% health, and let's see where we can finish off this fight later on. And keep in mind, I'm still spamming my special attacks, I'm still taking recoil damage, so that definitely covers all of that bit as well, and we're largely just playing pretty much normal. So at this point we are almost at level 3. I'm tapping Gamora's block. At this point, I just want her to hit my block a couple of times to push me to that mark where I trigger my regeneration. So we're almost there. She pushes 38, so I think that regen triggers at 35%, if I'm not mistaken. So there we go, 35%. We have our regeneration active, as you can see. We are recovering quite a bit of health despite the poison active on us. Now, as it's about to expire, we're going to drop our level 3 to refresh that regen once again. And then we're going to finish at about 84% health at this point, and we basically went from 20% to 80% despite the recall, despite the chip damage in a span of 2 fights. So that regeneration definitely is quite impressive, will save you decent amount of potions and units, and also makes him sustainable with Suicide Masteries despite having a special spam heavy style, kind of like. So yeah, I absolutely like it. I definitely do enjoy Goldpool. I by no means think he's an amazing, incredible character, but he's not bad. He's definitely useful, and considering his role in the game as a prestige champion and also as somebody that will often find a way in your questing team if you are using Nick Fury for the heal synergy, he definitely has quite a bit of use in endgame content. Anyways, that will do for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like, hit that sub, and I'm gonna catch you guys soon. See ya!